Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I have a fun fold for you. It's a side step fun fold. This card was made by my friend Janet Munden. She gave this to me, and it's a funny thing that just this week I was waiting to get my bundle, the Ride the Range bundle on page 68 of the Stampin' Up January through June mini catalog, and it has the stamp set and the open range dies, and I was just waiting to get my bundle, but my dies were on back order, and so she lent me her dies so I could make this card. So I sat the card down and I started measuring out all of the cuts and the score lines, and when I did that and I texted her that night saying, whew, that was quite a job, Janet said, well, there's measurements. It's on a website that I got it from. So Janet made the original design of this card, and I wanted to share it with you in a video, but she got the measurements from jpollockdesigns.com. You can find all the information and the products used on this card at my blog, CindyLeeBDesigns.com. Just underneath the YouTube description, just press the link, visit my blog here, press the link, it takes you right over to CindyLeeBDesigns.com. You'll find additional photos and any other links that I can show you, but thanks to Janet for her original design using the stamp set, and J. Pollock Designs for the measurements. So let's do our first things first. Now, when J. Pollock had made this card, she was savvy enough to say, oh, 3 panels. So she made these 1 3/4, 1 3/4, 1 3/4, which equals 5 1/4. So we're going to be starting with our paper trimmer here. I'll put this here, make sure you guys can all see the measurements there. So we're going to start with a piece of cardstock that's 5 1/4, and it's 8 1/2 on the other dimension, okay? So you've got, you know, your 8 1/2 by 5 1/4. Now, once I looked at the measurements in the diagram, I just made myself a little cheat sheet. And my little cheat sheet just told me exactly what to do. And I'll have this on my blog site for you. So this is the way I found it the easiest to do, to make multiples of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little cheat sheet here beside me. Maybe I'll bring this over so you guys can see it here, and I'll put my little cheat sheet here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take the 5 1/4 inch side, and I'm going to put it up towards the top where this raised guide on my paper trimmer. I'm going to use my cutting blade, and what I'm going to do is take the left side of my early espresso cardstock I'm using, and I'm going to move it over to 1 3/4. So 1 3/4 on the left side of the cutting groove, and then I put a little piece of white, little strip of white here so I could see my numbers easier, because you can see like down here, let me move this up a little, you can't see the tick marks as easy on a dark cardstock, so I put the white in there, and then it just made it easier for me to see that. So what you're going to do is lift up your clear cutting guide so that you have, you're not going to cut through your paper. And what I did was took my cutting blade and put it at 1 3/4. So 1 3/4 and let it fall down. So I'm going to cut from 1 3/4 down to 5 3/4. So I'm just going to 1 3/4, and I'm going to follow my guide down to 5 3/4. So the next thing I'm going to do is lift my clear cutting guide, go over to 3 1/2. So here we are at 3 1/2. I'm going to go back up to that 1 3/4 mark again. I'm going to drop my guide, and I'm going to go down to 5 this time. Down to 5. So there we are, the 2 cuts that we have to make. Once again, you took the 1 5/4 inch side up against the top of your trimmer, went to 1 3/4, dropped your guide down, went from 1 3/4 down to 5 3/4, moved over to 3 1/2, started again at 1 3/4, and went down to 5 this time. Now the next thing you're going to do, and this is according to the way I made it easiest for myself, but I hope that this is going to work easy for you too. I turned this 1/4 turn clockwise, counterclockwise. So counterclockwise, a 1/4 turn. So now I have the 8 1/2 inch side up at the top of my trimmer. I'm going to go to 1 3/4, 1 3/4 with this left side 1 3/4 on the left side of my cutting group. Now this time I'm not going to be using my cutting blade, so I'm going to put it at the top. I'm going to be using the lighter scoring blade. And according to my little notes here, at 1 3/4, I'm going to do the last 2 sections are going to be scored. So I'll just go at 1 3/4 and score the last 2 sections. Now when I'm talking about sections, I'm calling this first section, which is top, middle, bottom. So I'm doing the 2 bottom. Now, I did find when I used that for scoring, it made a good score line, but I actually find that putting my bone folder in there gives me a nice deep score there. So there's my first score. Now I'm going to go to 2.5. And at 2.5, I'm going to just score the middle. So I'm going to go back in, score just that middle section between the 2 cuts. Okay, then I'm going to go to 3 1/4, and I'm going to do just the bottom section. Now remember when you're watching a video that the video has a pause button. So you can just pause it, stop it so that you can do the next step, then pause it again, go to your next step. That's what I'm here for, kids. So now we're going to go to 4 1/4. So at 4 1/4, we're going to do the top section down to that first cut line. And now we're going to go to 5. See how easy this is? At 5, we're going to do just that middle section. And then 5 3/4, we're going to do just the bottom section. So that is easy. So once we made those 2 cuts, we cut this way, the 2 cuts, then we went 1/4 turn counterclockwise, and then at 1 3/4, we did the bottom 2. At 2 1/2, we did the middle one. At 3 1/4, we did the bottom one. At 4 1/4, we did the top one. We did at 5, we did the middle section, and at 5 3/4, we did the bottom section. That is the hardest part of this card, and it wasn't even hard now that you know. And so then you just play around with all the scores, because these 2, this little section here, this is where the real magic happens at these score lines here. So you just kind of try to coax this cardstock, because you don't want to, they're going to eventually go, but sometimes you just have to say, I love you, early espresso. Please cooperate with me. There we go. Then we just line up those 2 corners on the bottom, and then we just make a nice, crisp, burnished edge on these steps. And right there. And see, there we've got our great card. Now, we have 3 sections here, and like I said, J. Pollock had put 1 3/4 for each of those sections. So the measurements here were 1 5/8 by 2 3/8. So 1 5/8 by 2 3/8. And Janet used the Seaside Spray on this. And then we put those 3 panels in there. And then we have a panel that goes across the bottom here. And that was 2 5/8 by 5 1/8. Now, by the magic of video, maybe not the magic of video, okay, you know me, I always have to tell a story about everything. Had this video almost done to this point, and then the Pella guys came to inspect our door on the front of our house, and it became a huge discussion in the foyer with my husband's loud voice that totally ruined the video. So I already have this done. So, but that's okay. He is just a loud man. He likes to talk loud. He says it's because his hearing's going. But I'm always doing that. Shh, shh, I can hear you. I can hear you. So here we go. We've got our 3 Seaside Spray, and they were embossed to give it just a little extra touch. Janet embossed them through the Tasteful Textures embossing folder. And then we used the In Good Taste designer series paper on the bottom here. So this little guy I'll take a photo of for you guys to have for making this card. Okay, so the next thing is just, I mean, it's a very elaborate card and looks like over the top, which it is over the top. And once you break it down into those little steps of cutting the card, then cutting the pieces, and now putting these things together, it's great. Another tip on this card is use your Stamparatus. So what I did is I pulled out my Stamparatus knowing that I wanted to make multiples. And so what I did is I put let's just imagine that this is a solid piece of white here. So what I did is this was a solid piece, no die cuts on it. I stamped it, and oh, you know what? I'll just even show you that. So I stamped it, and then I went over to my cutting machine and cut out a perfect thing. Now I have to tell you, it took me 2 times because I messed up the horse. But once you get a perfect die cut, you can put it back into your Stamparatus and then put blanks in it. Now think about this. If you stamped like 7 of these, you stamp 7 of these, you have to go over with the die, manipulate the die around the image and cut it, and then do it again and do it again. But if you do one perfect cut, put it back into the Stamparatus stamp positioning tool, you do not have to do that. It is actually, you just throw those blanks right back in, and then I'll show you how quick and easy this is. I just felt my finger get into the ink. So you just ink up. I gotta clean off my inky finger there. Okay, there we go. You just ink those. You have this into the corner here. And it doesn't have to be into the corner. I mean, if you have it positioned somewhere else on your Stamparatus, it's fine. I prefer to put it in the corner, but not necessary. And you don't actually have to have this foam mat in here because this is a cling mount stamp. And then you just, look at that, perfect image. Just pop that up. This is what I love, my putty end of my take your pick tool. Perfect image. All I do is keep throwing these in here, and I've got all those die cut. So easy. And I did the same thing with the with my hay bales. Did the same thing with my hay bales. Inked them up. Oh, well, I had them in there the wrong way. If you're using a flower, you want to make sure you put a little arrow up in the corner, but I thought I'd have no, and you just ink those up. And of course, as you can see, I used all the pieces of my, whenever you have to do, like say a 4th one or a 3rd one, I use the other hinge on this, what I love, and I put in my, here we go, put in my horseshoe, and then, did the same thing again. Have to think, okay. And I did my horseshoe. So I just kept stamping away using these. And as long as you have these positioned in this exact position in this template, it works. Now, if I take these off because of needing this acrylic plate or something, these can be thrown away because you have to do it each time. But while you have it, just get it done. Okay, so I use my Stamparatus to do that, to make a whole bunch of multiple images. Okay, so let's get all these pieces here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this. There's a really great die that's in that set. Get out my, I'm gonna get out my, look how, now look how I've got a lot of glue on here. See how easy it is to get the glue off your silicone mat? You just rub it right off and it comes off. I love that about that. But I'm going to be shaking and making you dizzy, so I'm not going to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is just put some glue. This would have been, and I hadn't thought about it when I die cut this, a perfect thing to use the adhesive sheets for. Totally would have been great. So we're going to pick up this little guy here. There we go. And we're going to position him up here. There we go. And I see how Janet had a nice little cloud right up there. And the cloud is, I don't know if it's just a little tiny bit. Oh, on the, got a little too much glue. Right, coming a little bit behind. No, I kind of like it there. Okay, so we put a little cloud there. And then we have this cute little guy on his horse. So this cowboy, I did his clothes with this Seaside Spray. Since Seaside Spray were the little panels that were here, I use the same Seaside Spray as his clothes. So I used a darker one for his jeans, and then his shirt was done with the light Seaside Spray. And then I used soft suede light for his hat, and the horse was done in the light crumb cake with some shading with the darker crumb cake. And I thank Janet for her picking of all those colors. So here we go. We got some dimensionals here. I'm using up some pieces here. So I am going to put my cowboy. I kind of like being able to look at the card and then put him right where you can see the grass. So you just pop him on there. Now you'll notice this card was 5 1/4, so you can actually put your little cows a little bit off, but you want to make sure that it's going to fit into your envelope. So what I did is I grab an envelope, make sure it's going to fit there. And of course, you know, it's 5 1/4, so you have a whole 1/4 inch to play with. And so your little cows can come a little bit off of your card, okay? But they actually aren't going to be up here, they're going to be down here. So what we're going to do is put some dimensionals behind the cows as well. And as I said, I'm just kind of using some of my pieces of dimensional here. Use up all those little scraps. Okay, so we've got our dimensionals on the back of our cute little cows. Did a little bit of old olive grass on the bottom of the horse. Okay, and let's see. I'm gonna cheat here where, so I can see where Janet put that. So the cows were down a little bit like, wait, let's just do it this way. Haha, I'm just cheating off Janet. So there we go. I really thank you for this idea, Jen. I just loved it and I wanted to share it with everybody. Okay, so there we go. We've got our cute little cows. Now look here. I put a little, I didn't do it. Janet did that cute little udder in pink there. And then the little spots are smoky slate. So look at that, how cute that is. Now we are just going to finish up here on the front. We're gonna put our post. Now these are die cuts here that are, oh, I see my wood is a little bit of a darker wood, but that's okay. So we're gonna put this post fence on the front of the card. So we're gonna just get some glue here on these posts. I can't wait to play. I have it in my, I think I'm just gonna put it right across from that one side, put one. I'm going to have I've been able to watch my little granddaughter. I've been doing, watching her over at their house. My daughter-in-law works from home, is working a little bit from home now, and my son. So I've been going over there and keeping an eye on, I'm gonna snip this a little, keeping an eye on Edie while they're both in their offices. But Saturday is my big first solo drop off the grandchild. And, oop, sorry kids here. Let's get this glued down here and then snip it right. I'm gonna try to get it right where the wood is, but it's really forgiving because we're using two early espresso and early espresso. Okay, back to my story. So it's gonna be my first, Gemini's first solo grandbaby visit. She's gonna come over in the morning and stay until dinner time with us. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm sure I'm gonna introduce Edie to the stamping room. So when she's over here, I'm going to be playing with this I've like designated one of the days of this weekend just to play with this stamp set. I'm so excited. Okay, so we are going to put on our hay bales. And I have my mini dimensionals here, but I like to save those for, I picked them up by accident, but I like to save those specifically for little items. So I can actually put the hay bale on with my bigger dimensionals. Oh gosh, Janet, this was a great card. Put our hay bales there. And then I used a different sentiment. Take time for the simple things. Now you'll notice this die cut here, it's got kind of like a little bit of a wavy, rustic sign design to it. And it came from the welcoming windows. It's that one shutter that's more rustic, not the wood grained one. And so I used that for my sentiment there. And I bet this would actually really look cute with some twine. So maybe my next card I'll put twine and I'll have a sign hanging there. So we're gonna put that. I wonder if I should just put it flat, or I think I am just gonna keep it flat. But in case I decide to change my mind, I'm just going, oh, I just found it. I think I'm just gonna put it on with some adhesive. Oh wait, that didn't work very well. Here we go. Okay, get my Stampin' seal out here. Oh gosh, what is going on with me today? One of those days. Okay, I'm just going back here to that. I think I didn't have the right, okay. Okay, take time for the simple things. There we go. I think I might actually pop that up eventually, maybe. Okay, so now the next thing is doing where you would, oh, we need to put on a couple clouds. So we want to put a cloud. I'm just going to put the glue right onto the card. Little piece there and a little cloud here. Okay, we're going to put a bigger cloud. These are die cuts that are actually in the set. Perfect size clouds. I always forget that glue has a little dry time. Perfect size clouds for like a little car, like a little stamped images. So look at that. We're getting there. We're getting there, kids. Okay, now the back is where Janet decided to do your sentiment, which I preferred on the back as well, but you can also put your message on the inside of the card. Now when you put it on the inside of the card though, when it's sitting up, you're going to see some of the writing and you can see some of it in from the side. So I do prefer to put it on the back, but you can put it in that front. Now there's a really neat, where is my stamp set here? Oh, here it is. It's a really neat barbed wire there on the stamped image. So what I did is I pulled out my Stamparatus again because I wanted to make sure I was going to have it straight on there. So what I did is let me get this Stamparatus back. Okay, is I put, whoop, get my paper out there. Whoop, I have to make sure I've got the right, okay. So I wanted to hinge stamp. Now I had to put it this way because I wanted to go across horizontally. And if I would have put it, well, I guess I could have did it this way and put it up there and then put but I just went ahead and did it this way. Okay, so what I did is I figured out where I wanted to put this. And this was just, playing around because I wanted to have it coming off a little bit, but I knew that if I did it this way, it was gonna hinge straight across. Okay, so you can figure out exactly, like I wasn't even thinking I could have put it like this way and stamped it down this way, but I just chose to do it that way. Okay, so it just worked for me to have it there. Okay, and then what I did is I used Early Espresso. Okay, so I just happened to put it right there at 3 1/4. Put my magnet on. And I'm gonna put my magnet towards the top. And I'm gonna ink up my barbed wire. Make sure I have it all inked. And then I'm gonna stamp it down. Now, one thing I'm gonna do, and what's kind of nice because this is a clear mount, a cling stamp, it won't pull up my paper. So I've got that first one. Now I'm just gonna bring it down on the hinge, Now it's not the first hinge because I would be doing that, but I'm able to bring it down 2 hinges and stamp it again. And you know, this isn't like the first, I mean, it, you know, I usually have pieces of scrap paper sitting here and I try it on my first piece of paper, see how it works. And like I said, it's a little bit, it's like being prepped for something. If you're getting everything and go down 2, you know, you get things prepped at the beginning and it just helps to get it all done here. And my last stamp. So there we go. So it worked. It looked really nice. Now I'm going to just grab something to wipe off my Stamparatus here, and then just wipe off my, and set this little guy aside. He's getting a lot of work. He needs to get a bath too. He needs some scrubbing. Okay, so we've got our wire. And I decided on this one, because see, you've got 2 of them. I already did one ahead of time. And I just decided to put the Life is a Journey, enjoy the ride on the back of mine. So where is my card? Here is my card. Okay, so we're going, and you notice here, I played around and I ended up, when I put it in there, I went up a little too high because then I didn't really have as much of a place to write a message. So I tried it again and I moved the stamp down. So, you know, you've got like, okay, you play around, but once you know, so that's why a lot of times when I'm making cards, I'm using scrap pieces of paper until I'm sure exactly what I like. And then finally I have to say, okay, these colors don't go with this card. I need to just cut into the real stuff. So there we go. Life is a journey. Enjoy the ride. You can put your message there. And oh gosh, this is just so adorable. So once again, thank you, Janet Munden, and thank you, jpollockdesigns.com for the measurements. This is, oh, I just can't wait to just play around with this stamp set this weekend. So if you have any questions, you can always email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com. You can text me or call me at 724-323-2296. Jump over to my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com. You'll have additional photos and a list of all the things that I've used on the card, so you can browse around, get a cup of tea or coffee or your favorite cocktail and sit down and just take a little visit over there. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.